Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Easy English Spark channel. I'm so excited to have you here today. In this video, we'll be diving into how to enhance your English listening and speaking skills, build your confidence, and speak more fluently. Whether you're looking for ways to practice in real-world scenarios, finding the right speaking partners, or simply learning to stay positive, we've got it all covered. Let's light up your English journey and make it more fun and effective than ever before. Let's get started. Chapter 1. The Confidence Factor. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter, we're going to discuss a crucial element of becoming a fluent English speaker: confidence. Now, you might be thinking, what does confidence have to do with speaking English? Shouldn't it just be about knowing the words and grammar rules? Well, let me tell you, it's so much more than that. When you look at fluent speakers, they have something that beginners often lack: confidence. It's not that they know every word or that they never make mistakes. Far from it. In fact, fluent speakers make mistakes all the time. But the difference is, they don't let those mistakes stop them. They don't freeze up, and they don't let fear of making errors hold them back. Instead, they move forward, they communicate, and they keep speaking. That is what makes them sound fluent. So, what does this mean for you? If you want to speak English with confidence, the first step is to stop worrying about being perfect. Let's be honest, perfection doesn't exist in language learning. Even native speakers make mistakes. What matters more is how you handle those mistakes. When you make a mistake, don't stop. Don't panic. Just keep going. This is one of the most important things I've learned over the years, and I want to share it with you. Imagine this scenario. You're having a conversation with someone, and everything is flowing smoothly. The words come easily, and you're not even thinking about grammar. You're not hesitating, searching for the right word, or overthinking what you just said. It just feels natural. You're focused on the conversation, not on the mistakes or the rules. That is the goal. Speaking without fear and with ease. But how do you get there? How can you be confident in your speaking abilities when you don't feel confident at all right now? Let me share a few secrets with you. The truth is, confidence is something you can build. It's not something you're born with. It's a skill, just like speaking English. You can practice it. In fact, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. Let me give you a simple example. When you first learned how to ride a bike, were you perfect right away? Probably not. You had to practice and make mistakes before you got the hang of it. The same applies to learning English. The more you speak, the more comfortable you'll feel. And over time, you'll stop worrying about every little mistake. Now, here's something I want you to understand. Confidence in speaking comes from doing. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. If you keep waiting until you feel ready to speak, you might never speak at all. But if you take small steps, if you push yourself to speak even when it feels uncomfortable, you will start to notice a change. You don't need to know 1,000 new words, and you don't need to memorize every grammar rule to feel confident. What you need is a mindset shift. You need to believe that you can improve, that making mistakes is part of the process, and that speaking is not about perfection, but about communication. So, what's the first step in building that confidence? I recommend starting small. Set a goal for yourself to speak English every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Speak with a friend, speak with a family member, or speak to yourself. In the mirror. The key is to start speaking, no matter how uncomfortable it feels at first. The more you speak, the more confident you will become. Let me tell you a quick story about one of my students, Anna. When Anna first came to me, she was terrified of speaking. She would freeze up and avoid conversations because she was afraid of making mistakes. I told her to take it slow, to start by having short, simple conversations, even if they were just with herself. And you know what? After a few weeks, she started feeling more comfortable. She realized that the more she spoke, the less she feared making mistakes. Now Anna speaks English confidently every day without hesitation. It didn't happen overnight, but it did happen because she practiced consistently. Here's another piece of advice. Embrace the discomfort. At the beginning, speaking might feel awkward or intimidating. That's normal. The key is to push through that discomfort and keep going. The more you push yourself, the easier it gets. Imagine yourself taking tiny steps forward each day. Even if you're not perfect, you're still making progress. In fact, I want to challenge you right now. Over the next week, I want you to set a goal to speak English every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Don't worry about grammar or vocabulary. Just focus on speaking. Talk about your day, describe your plans, or even tell a story. The goal is to get used to speaking without fear. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but that's okay. The more you do it, the more confident you will become. And remember this. Confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being comfortable with making mistakes. No one becomes fluent by avoiding mistakes. You become fluent by embracing them and continuing to speak anyway. So, in this chapter, I've shared with you that the key to speaking English with confidence is not about perfection. It's about starting where you are and continuing to speak, no matter how imperfect it may seem. Confidence comes from practice, and every time you speak, no matter how small the conversation, you're building that confidence. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to enhance your speaking skills with active listening, another essential part of becoming fluent. But for now, I want you to take action. Start speaking and embrace the process. You've got this. Chapter 2: Embracing Imperfection. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter, we're going to talk about one of the most important things you need to understand on your English learning journey: embracing imperfection. Now, you might be wondering, why is imperfection so important? The truth is, we often hold ourselves back in learning because we are too focused on being perfect. We want to speak perfectly, have flawless grammar, and never make a mistake. But here's the thing: perfection is an illusion. No one speaks perfectly all the time, not even native speakers. And if we keep aiming for perfection, we may never reach our full potential. Let's start by breaking down this idea of perfection. When you first start learning English, you might feel like you need to memorize every rule, every word, and every phrase. You may fear making mistakes because you believe that making a mistake means you are failing. But I want to tell you something important. Mistakes are a natural part of learning, and they're absolutely necessary. In fact, without mistakes, you won't know what areas you need to improve in. Think about when you were a child. Do you remember when you were learning to walk? You probably fell down a lot. But did that stop you from getting back up? Of course not. You kept trying, and little by little you learned how to walk. You didn't care about the falls. You focused on moving forward, and eventually, you mastered walking. Learning a language is no different. Making mistakes is part of the process, and it's how you learn. If you're too focused on making everything perfect, you might become afraid to speak at all. You'll freeze up, hesitate, and second-guess yourself every time you try to say something. But this fear of imperfection can actually hold you back from improving. When you focus too much on avoiding mistakes, you miss out on the opportunity to learn and grow. I want to share with you a story of one of my students, Tom. When Tom first started learning English, he was very nervous about making mistakes. Every time he made a mistake, he would stop, apologize, and start over. This was actually hindering his progress. He was too focused on speaking perfectly and not on just communicating. I told him something simple. Tom, you can't learn if you're afraid to make mistakes. You have to accept that mistakes will happen, but the more you speak, the better you'll get. Slowly, Tom started to embrace the idea that making mistakes was okay. Instead of stopping when he made a mistake, he would simply correct himself and keep going. Gradually, his speaking became more fluent. The more he practiced, the more natural it felt, and the less he cared about being perfect. Eventually, Tom spoke with confidence, even if his grammar or pronunciation wasn't always perfect. So, let me ask you, how much time have you spent being afraid of making mistakes? How many times have you held yourself back from speaking because you didn't want to say something wrong? I want you to stop worrying about being perfect. Stop worrying about speaking incorrectly, because that's not the point. The point is communication. Speaking is about getting your message across, not about having flawless grammar or pronunciation. Let's take a look at a key mindset shift. Instead of saying to yourself, "I can't speak well because my English is imperfect," try saying this: "My English is getting better every time I speak. I'm improving even when I make mistakes." Do you see the difference? The first statement focuses on failure, while the second focuses on growth. Every time you speak, no matter how imperfectly, you're improving. Even if you make a mistake, you're still moving forward. Mistakes are just stepping stones on the path to fluency. Now, here's another way to think about this. Language is not a test. It's a tool for communication. When you're having a conversation, the other person isn't sitting there grading your grammar. They're interested in understanding what you're saying. If you say something wrong, don't stress about it. Just keep talking. Most people will understand what you mean, even if you don't use the exact right word or structure. And if they don't understand, they'll ask you to clarify. That's all part of the conversation. This is especially important when you're speaking with people who are learning English too. They understand that speaking isn't about perfection. They're in the same boat as you, so don't be afraid to speak up, even if you're not 100% sure of your grammar or pronunciation. The goal is to communicate, and you can do that even when you're not perfect. Let me share a quote by the famous author Brené Brown. She said, "Imperfections are not inadequacies. They are reminders that we're all in this together. We're all imperfect. Even the most fluent speakers you know have moments where they make mistakes. But those mistakes don't define them. What defines them is their willingness to keep going, to keep speaking, and to keep improving." In this chapter, I want you to embrace the idea that making mistakes is a strength, not a weakness. When you make a mistake, you've learned something new. You've taken a step forward in your journey. and that's something to celebrate, not something to fear. So, here's a challenge for you. For the next week, I want you to set a goal to speak English without worrying about making mistakes. Speak with friends, family, or even by yourself. Don't focus on your mistakes. Focus on the message you want to communicate. And remember, if you make a mistake, it's okay. Just correct it and keep going. You'll be amazed at how much progress you make when you stop being afraid of imperfection. In the next chapter, we'll dive into another important skill: active listening. But for now, I want you to reflect on this. The more you embrace imperfection, the more confident you'll become. And the more confident you are, the easier speaking will become. Chapter 3: Active Listening, a Crucial Skill. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter we're going to talk about something that is often overlooked in language learning. But it's absolutely essential if you want to improve your speaking skills: active listening. When we think about learning a language, we usually focus on speaking, reading, and writing. But what about listening? Listening is often the first step to becoming a better speaker. The truth is, you can't speak well unless you first listen well. In fact, listening is the foundation of fluency. It's the building block that makes speaking feel more natural and easy. So, what exactly is active listening? Active listening isn't just hearing words passively. It's about engaging with the language. It's about paying attention to the way sentences are structured, how ideas are connected, and how words are pronounced. Active listening helps you understand how the language flows and how native speakers express their thoughts. And the more you listen actively, the easier it becomes to speak naturally. Let me explain this further. Think about how you learned to speak your native language. Did you learn to speak by focusing on grammar rules first, or did you learn by hearing people speak around you? Chances are, you learned by listening. You picked up words and phrases just by hearing them over and over. You weren't thinking about grammar, and you weren't consciously memorizing vocabulary. You were just absorbing the language naturally. The same principle applies when learning English. By listening actively, you start to internalize how the Yaoqi language works. You get a feel for the rhythm, the flow, and the tone. You begin to understand how words and phrases fit together to form meaning. And this understanding makes it much easier to speak confidently, because you're already familiar with how English sounds and how it's used in real-life situations. So, what does active listening look like in practice? It's more than just passively listening to a podcast or watching a video. Active listening requires concentration and intention. You need to pay attention to more than just the words. You need to focus on how the speaker structures their sentences. Are they using short phrases or longer sentences? How are they emphasizing certain words or ideas? Are they speaking quickly or slowly? These are the things you need to listen for. For example, when you're listening to a podcast or a conversation, try to focus on intonation, the rise and fall of the speaker's voice. Notice how they pause for effect or stress certain words. All these things contribute to the meaning of the sentence and can help you speak more naturally. Now, let me give you a simple exercise to help you improve your active listening skills. Here's what you can do. Step 1. Choose a podcast or story. Pick something that's not too difficult. It could be a short episode of a podcast or a simple story. I recommend choosing content that interests you so you're more engaged. Step 2. Listen carefully. Don't just let the words pass by. Focus on the sentences, the rhythm, and the pronunciation. Pay attention to how the speaker expresses their ideas. Are there any words or phrases you don't understand? Try to catch the meaning based on the context. Step 3. Break down the sentences. Listen to a short sentence and try to repeat it in your mind. Think about the structure and the words used. What's the speaker doing? Are they using any phrases you can use in your own speech? Step 4. Repeat what you hear. After listening to a sentence, pause and try to repeat it out loud. Mimic the rhythm, the tone, and the pronunciation. This will help you build your speaking skills while improving your listening at the same time. This technique is called shadowing, and we'll go deeper into that in the next chapter. By practicing active listening in this way, you're training your brain to recognize patterns in the language. You're getting used to the sounds, the structure, and the flow. This is exactly how you'll learn to speak more naturally and fluently. But why is listening so important for speaking? Well, when you listen actively, you begin to recognize common sentence structures and vocabulary. For example, when you hear a phrase like, "How's it going?" or "What's up?" you begin to understand how these phrases are used in everyday conversations. You'll start to notice patterns, like how questions are formed or how native speakers shorten words. This will help you sound more natural when you speak, because you're already familiar with how things are said. Another reason why active listening is crucial is that it helps you understand pronunciation. English pronunciation can be tricky, especially because many words aren't pronounced the way they're spelled. When you listen actively, you learn the correct pronunciation of words by hearing them repeatedly. The more you listen, the better you'll be at recognizing the subtle differences between similar sounding words, which will improve your speaking accuracy. Here's something else that can help you practice listening actively. Watch movies or TV shows in English. Pick shows that you enjoy and try to watch them without subtitles first. Afterward, you can watch again with subtitles to see if you understood everything correctly. This will train your ear to pick up different accents and colloquial expressions that native speakers use in everyday conversation. It's a fun and engaging way to improve your listening skills while also getting a feel for the culture. Now, let's talk about shadowing. I mentioned it earlier as part of the active listening exercise. Shadowing is when you listen to a sentence or phrase and then repeat it immediately, trying to match the speaker's speed, rhythm, and pronunciation. It's an incredibly powerful technique for improving both your listening and speaking skills simultaneously. Shadowing helps you build fluency and get used to speaking without overthinking. It also improves your pronunciation by helping you copy the natural intonation and rhythm of native speakers. Here's how you can practice shadowing. Step 1. Choose a short segment from a podcast or video. Listen to a sentence or two and pay close attention to how it's said. Step 2. Repeat what you hear. Pause the audio and immediately try to repeat the exact sentence you just heard. Focus on matching the rhythm, speed, and tone. Step 3. Keep practicing. Do this for several sentences. Each time you repeat, focus on improving your pronunciation, your fluency, and your ability to say the sentence naturally. By doing this regularly, you'll improve your ability to listen and speak at the same time, and you'll notice that your speaking sounds more fluent and natural over time. Let me give you another example. One of my students, Sophie, struggled with understanding fast speech. She often found herself lost in conversations because the speaker would talk too quickly. But after practicing active listening and shadowing regularly, Sophie started to recognize common phrases and sentence structures more easily. She could understand conversations without having to pause the audio, and her speaking became much more confident. Remember, active listening is more than just hearing words. It's about engaging with the language and understanding how it works. The more you listen actively, the easier it will be for you to speak confidently and naturally. So, I challenge you to take the time each day to practice listening carefully and actively. Whether it's through podcasts, TV shows, or conversations with others, make active listening a part of your daily routine. In the next chapter, we'll dive into the repetition technique, which is another powerful tool for improving your speaking skills. But for now, Focus on developing your active listening skills. It's the foundation of everything that comes next. Chapter 4. Repetition builds fluency. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter, we're going to explore one of the most powerful tools for improving your speaking skills: repetition. It may sound simple, but repetition is one of the most effective techniques for building fluency in any language. Now, you might be wondering, why is repetition so important? Doesn't it get boring? Well, let me tell you that repetition is far from boring. In fact, it's a key ingredient for mastering English and speaking it naturally. Think of it like this. When you repeat something over and over, you're training your brain to remember it more easily. You're helping your brain form strong connections that make it easier to recall words, phrases, and sentence structures when you need them. Let's break this down. Fluency is not just about knowing a lot of words. It's about being able to use those words and sentences quickly and easily. When you're fluent, you don't hesitate or stop to think about how to say something. It just comes out. This happens when you've repeated words and phrases enough that they become second nature to you. This is where repetition comes in. Repetition helps you get to that point where you don't need to stop and think about grammar or vocabulary. Instead, you can just speak. The more you repeat something, the more natural it feels. Eventually, it becomes part of your everyday speech, and you don't even have to think about it anymore. So, let's look at how repetition works and how you can use it effectively in your learning process. Step 1. Start with common phrases. 1. Of the easiest ways to begin using repetition is by focusing on common phrases. These are phrases you use all the time in conversations. For example, simple greetings like, "How are you?" or "What's your name?" These are the kinds of phrases that come up in everyday conversations, and the more you repeat them, the more comfortable you'll be using them without thinking. Let's take "How are you?" as an example. This is a question that comes up in almost every conversation, right? But if you only learn it once and never repeat it, it might be hard to remember when you're speaking. But if you repeat it multiple times every day, say 5 times in the morning, 5 times in the afternoon, and 5 times in the evening, your brain will start to recognize it more easily, and eventually you'll be able to say it without even thinking. Step 2. Use repetition throughout the day. Repetition doesn't need to be limited to when you're studying. You can practice it throughout your day, integrating it into your daily activities. For example, while you're walking, You can practice common phrases or words. You might be walking to the store, so you can repeat phrases like, I'm going to the store, or I'm buying food as you go. This helps you use English in a real-world context, making the language feel more natural and less like something you're studying. You're creating a habit of speaking English regularly, even if it's just by repeating a few sentences during the day. It's these little moments of practice that will make a big difference in the long run. Step 3. Use the mirror technique. Another powerful way to practice repetition is by using the mirror technique. This is a simple but effective exercise. Stand in front of a mirror and say a sentence or phrase 5 times out loud. Focus on your pronunciation and try to make it sound as natural as possible. Watching yourself speak can be a great way to build confidence and self-awareness. You'll also be able to see if your mouth movements match what you're saying, which helps improve your pronunciation. Let's try this with a simple sentence like, I'm learning English. Stand in front of the mirror, repeat the sentence 5 times, and pay attention to your mouth, your intonation, and how the sentence feels as you say it. This exercise not only helps you with repetition, but also helps you see your progress in real time. Step 4. Focus on high-frequency words. When you're learning English, there are certain words that are used very frequently in daily conversations. These are words that, once you've mastered them, will allow you to express a wide variety of ideas. For example, words like good, bad, always, never, maybe, and very. By repeating these words, you start to become familiar with how they work in sentences and how to use them correctly in different contexts. Make a list of the top 10 most commonly used words in English and practice them every day. You don't need to practice them all day, but even 5 minutes of repetition a day can make a big difference. Over time, these words will become part of your natural vocabulary, and you'll start using them without even thinking about it. Step 5. Repeat sentences from conversations or podcasts. One of the most effective ways to practice repetition is by listening to conversations, podcasts, or stories, and then repeating what you hear. This is another form of shadowing, listening, and immediately repeating the sentences you hear. But this time, you're not just repeating, you're also practicing the language in context. For example, let's say you're listening to a podcast and you hear a sentence like, I love to travel around the world. You would pause the podcast and repeat that sentence out loud, focusing on the intonation and pronunciation. Then, move on to the next sentence. Do this for a few minutes each day, and over time, you'll notice that your speaking becomes more fluent and natural. Step 6. Set goals for repetition. Another important aspect of repetition is setting specific goals. For example, you might decide that you want to learn how to use 10 new sentences every week. Write down the sentences, practice them daily, and check your progress at the end of the week. This goal setting gives you something to work toward and allows you to measure your progress. By breaking down your practice into manageable chunks, you'll avoid feeling overwhelmed, and you'll stay motivated to keep practicing. Step 7. Repetition builds muscle memory. When you repeat something, it's like you're building muscle memory for your brain. Just like when you exercise, the more you repeat, the stronger your brain becomes at recalling the information quickly and without hesitation. Think about how you learned to ride a bike. You didn't learn it by reading about it or watching. Others do it. You learned by practicing, falling, and getting back up. Eventually, it became second nature. Language works the same way. The more you practice, the more fluent you'll become. Now let me share a story with you about one of my students, Jessica. Jessica came to me saying that she knew a lot of English vocabulary, but had trouble using it in conversation. She would often hesitate because she wasn't confident about the words she had learned. I told her to use repetition daily. She began to repeat 5 sentences each day, sentences she wanted to use in conversation. After just 2 weeks, her hesitation decreased significantly. The sentences she repeated every day started coming out naturally in conversation, and her confidence grew. Repetition helped her brain internalize the language and use it without overthinking. Step 8. Don't just repeat, focus on improvement. While repetition is essential, it's also important to focus on improving with each repetition. If you repeat a sentence and realize you made a mistake, don't just repeat the same mistake over and over. Correct it, then repeat it again correctly. This helps you refine your skills and avoid reinforcing bad habits. Remember, repetition isn't about just saying the same thing over and over. It's about improving with each repetition. Aim for small improvements every time. Step 9. Be patient and consistent. Finally, one of the most important things to remember about repetition is that it takes time. You won't become fluent overnight, but with consistent practice, you will improve. Be patient with yourself and keep practicing, even on days when it feels difficult or when you don't see immediate progress. Over time, all of the repetition will add up, and you'll be amazed at how much more confident and fluent you become. In this chapter, we've learned that repetition is one of the most effective ways to build fluency in English. By repeating common phrases using the mirror technique and listening to conversations or podcasts, you can create strong mental connections that make speaking English feel natural and easy. The key is to practice regularly, set goals, and focus on improvement with each repetition. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how to make your practice fun and enjoyable so that learning English becomes something you look forward to every day. Chapter 5. Making Practice Enjoyable. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter, we're going to dive into something that many learners often overlook: making your practice enjoyable. Let's be honest, language learning can sometimes feel like a chore. You might get frustrated when you don't see progress right away, or you might feel like you're stuck in a routine. But here's the good news. Learning English doesn't have to feel like work. In fact, the more fun you make your practice, the faster you'll improve. Now, you might be thinking, but how can learning English be fun? Isn't it all about memorizing vocabulary and grammar rules? Well, yes, grammar and vocabulary are important, but the truth is, you don't have to make learning feel like a test. The key is to find ways to make it engaging, exciting, and something you look forward to. When you enjoy the process, you'll be more motivated to practice, and you'll see improvements faster. In this chapter, we'll explore several ways to make your English practice fun, so it doesn't feel like a boring, repetitive task. Let's get started. Role-playing. Step into real-life conversations. One of the best ways to make speaking practice fun is by using role-playing. Role-playing allows you to step into different scenarios and practice English in a way that feels like real-life conversations. It's not just about repeating vocabulary or sentences. It's about creating real interactions where you get to act out a situation. Imagine this. You're at a coffee shop and you're ordering your favorite drink in English. Or maybe you're at the airport, checking in for a flight. By role-playing these scenarios, you'll practice real conversations that you could use in everyday life. Plus, it's fun because you get to pretend to be in a situation, and that makes it feel less like studying and more like acting or playing a game. Here's how you can start role-playing. Pick a situation. Think about a real-life scenario where you might need to speak English. It could be ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, or even having a job interview. Create a dialogue. Write down some sentences that you might need to say in that situation. For example, in a restaurant, you might write, Can I see the menu, please. Or, I'd like to order the steak. Act it out. Now, pretend you're in that situation. If you're practicing with a friend, one of you can play the customer and the other can be the waiter. If you're practicing alone, you can simply talk to yourself in the mirror or record yourself speaking. Role-playing is not only fun, but it also helps you get comfortable with real-world conversations. You'll build confidence as you practice, and soon, these phrases will become second nature to you. Talk about what you love. Speak from the heart. Another great way to make practice fun is to talk about things you love. When you speak about topics that interest you, you're more likely to feel motivated and excited. This is because you're connecting the language with something that brings you joy or sparks your curiosity. Think about your passions. Do you love cooking, traveling, sports, or music? Whatever it is, start talking about it in English. Describe your favorite dishes, explain your travel experiences, or talk about your favorite movies or books. The key is to choose topics that make you excited, so speaking English doesn't feel like a chore. For example, if you love cooking, try explaining how to make your favorite recipe in English. You could say, first, you need to chop the onions. Then, you add the garlic and cook them until they're golden brown. Not only will you learn new vocabulary related to cooking, but you'll also have fun doing it because you're talking about something you enjoy. When you speak about things you love, the words come more easily, and you're more likely to stay motivated. It also makes learning feel more personal as you're connecting the language to your own interests. Play speaking games. Turn learning into a challenge. Who says language learning can't be a game? Speaking games are a fun and interactive way to practice English without feeling like you're studying. There are plenty of games you can play alone or with a partner that challenge you to think and speak quickly. Here are a few examples of speaking games you can try. 20 questions. Think of an object, and your partner has to ask yes or no questions to guess what it is. For example, if you're thinking of a book, your partner could ask, "Is it something you can hold?" or "Is it something you read?" This game helps with vocabulary and sentence structure while also making you think in English. Charades. In this game, you act out a word or phrase without speaking, and your partner has to guess what it is. It's a great way to practice vocabulary and expressions while having fun. You could act out playing soccer, eating pizza, or driving a car. Speaking challenges. Set a timer for 1 minute and see how many sentences you can say about a specific topic without stopping. This helps with fluency and speed. For example, if the topic is my daily routine, you'll try to talk about your morning, work, and evening activities without pausing. These games make practicing English feel less like hard work and more like a challenge. You'll also be amazed at how much you can learn when you're having fun. Listen to podcasts or watch movies you enjoy. Another way to make your practice enjoyable is by listening to podcasts or watching movies in English. The key here is to pick content that you genuinely enjoy. If you love movies, watch them in English with subtitles. If you're into podcasts, find ones that discuss topics you're passionate about. For example, if you love technology, listen to tech podcasts in English. If you enjoy cooking, find cooking-related shows or videos. When you enjoy the content, learning feels less like work and more like entertainment. After watching or listening, try summarizing what you've heard or discuss it with a friend in English. This not only helps you improve your listening and speaking skills, but it also keeps the practice fun and engaging. Change your environment. Practice English anywhere. Sometimes all you need to make practice more fun is a change of scenery. Instead of sitting at a desk, try practicing English in different places. Go to a park, a cafe, or even walk around your neighborhood and describe what you see in English. For example, if you're walking through a park, try describing the trees, the people, and the sounds you hear. You could say, "The trees are tall and green. I can hear birds singing. There are a lot of people walking their dogs." By practicing in different environments, you're not only making learning more interesting, but you're also preparing yourself to speak English in real-world situations. This makes you feel more comfortable using English in everyday life. Celebrate your progress. Reward yourself. Finally, it's important to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Learning a language is a journey, and every step forward is an achievement. If you've had a good conversation in English, even if you made a few mistakes, celebrate it. If you've learned 5 new words today, give yourself credit. You could reward yourself by doing something you enjoy after completing a practice session, like watching a favorite show or treating yourself to something sweet. Recognizing your progress, no matter how small, helps you stay motivated and keeps the learning process enjoyable. In this chapter, we've learned how to make practicing English fun by incorporating role-playing, talking about what you love, playing speaking games, listening to podcasts or watching movies, changing your environment, and celebrating your progress. By making learning enjoyable, you'll stay motivated and you'll see faster improvements in your English skills. In the next chapter, we'll explore breaking through speaking blocks and how to continue making progress even when it feels like you've hit a wall. But for now, I want you to focus on making your practice fun. Enjoy the process and let it be something you look forward to every day. Chapter 6: Overcoming Speaking Blocks. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter, we're going to talk about something that every English learner faces at some point in their journey: speaking blocks. These are those moments when you feel stuck, when the words just won't come out, when your mind goes blank, and suddenly speaking English feels like the hardest thing in the world. We've all been there. You're in the middle of a conversation, and suddenly, you forget what you wanted to say. You hesitate. You start thinking about grammar. You start worrying about pronunciation. And before you know it, the conversation comes to an awkward stop. But here's the thing. Speaking blocks are normal. They're part of the learning process, and they happen to everyone, no matter how fluent they are. The good news is, they can be overcome. And in this chapter, I'll show you how to break through these barriers and continue improving your speaking skills. Understand that mistakes are part of the process. The first step in overcoming speaking blocks is changing your mindset about mistakes. Most of the time, speaking blocks happen because we're afraid of making a mistake. We're afraid of saying the wrong word or using the wrong grammar. But here's the truth. Mistakes are not failures. Mistakes are simply opportunities to learn and improve. Think about it this way. If you never made mistakes, you wouldn't be learning. Mistakes show you where you need to improve, and they give you valuable feedback. So, instead of trying to avoid mistakes, embrace them. If you make a mistake, just keep going. Don't stop the conversation. Don't apologize too much. Just correct yourself if needed and continue. The more you practice, the less you'll be afraid of mistakes, and the easier it will be to speak confidently. Focus on communication, not perfection. One of the main reasons speaking blocks happen is because we're too focused on perfection. We want to say everything exactly right. But the truth is, speaking English isn't about being perfect. It's about communicating. The goal of speaking is to get your message across, not to speak perfectly. So, if you forget a word, don't panic. If you make a grammar mistake, don't stop. Just keep speaking and focus on the message you want to communicate. Native speakers often make mistakes in their speech, but they keep going because they know that the purpose of communication is to share ideas, not to speak flawlessly. So, start shifting your focus away from being perfect and towards effective communication. This change in mindset will reduce your speaking blocks significantly. Use the power of self-talk. One of the most effective techniques for overcoming speaking blocks is self-talk. Self-talk is when you speak to yourself in English, either silently in your head or out loud. It's a simple but powerful technique that helps you practice speaking without the pressure of a real conversation. Here's how you can use self-talk. Describe your day. As you go through your day, practice describing what you're doing in English. For example, I'm making breakfast. I'm boiling the eggs and toasting some bread. After breakfast, I will go to work. Talk about your plans. If you have something coming up, talk about it in English. For example, this evening, I will meet my friend. We're going to a cafe. I'll order a coffee and we'll talk about the movie we saw last week. Ask yourself questions. You can ask yourself questions and then answer them in English. For example, what did I do today? I worked in the morning. I had a meeting in the afternoon. Then I went for a walk. Self-talk allows you to practice speaking in a low-pressure environment. You don't have to worry about making mistakes because you're speaking to yourself. This helps build your confidence and get used to speaking English without the fear of judgment. Use shadowing to push through blocks. Another powerful technique for overcoming speaking blocks is shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to a sentence or a phrase and then repeat it immediately, trying to match the speaker's speed, intonation, and pronunciation as closely as possible. It's like shadowing the speaker and following their words in real time. Shadowing is great because it helps you practice both listening and speaking at the same time. By repeating what you hear, you train your brain to process language more quickly and naturally. It helps you get used to speaking without thinking too much about grammar or pronunciation. Here's how to use shadowing to break through speaking blocks. Choose a short audio clip. Pick a short sentence or conversation from a podcast, YouTube video, or movie that you find interesting. It's important to pick content that you enjoy, so it doesn't feel like a chore. Listen carefully. Listen to the sentence carefully and pay attention to the speaker's rhythm, pronunciation, and tone. Pause and repeat. After the speaker says the sentence, pause the audio and repeat the sentence aloud. Try to match the speaker's speed, tone, and pronunciation as closely as possible. Keep practicing. Do this for several sentences or phrases. Gradually, you'll start to feel more comfortable and natural in your speaking. Shadowing helps you overcome speaking blocks because it takes the pressure off you. You're not thinking about what to say next. You're simply copying what you hear, which reduces hesitation and improves your fluency. Practice with challenging situations. Sometimes speaking blocks happen because we're afraid of certain situations. For example, you might feel nervous about speaking with native speakers or about discussing complicated topics. These feelings are completely normal. The best way to overcome them is through role-playing or practicing those specific situations in advance. Think about the situations that make you nervous. Maybe it's giving a presentation, having a job interview, or talking about a technical topic. Whatever it is, role-play it. Practice saying sentences and phrases that you might need. You can do this with a friend or even by yourself. For example, if you're nervous about a job interview in English, practice common interview questions and answers. If you're nervous about giving a presentation, practice speaking about the topic out loud, focusing on speaking clearly and confidently. By practicing these challenging situations in advance, you'll build your confidence, and when you face them in real life, they'll seem much less intimidating. Stay positive and persistent. One of the most important things to remember when you face speaking blocks is to stay positive. It's easy to get frustrated when you're struggling with your speaking, but remember, language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. You won't become fluent overnight. Progress takes time, and you will encounter obstacles along the way. When you face a speaking block, don't beat yourself up. Stay calm and remind yourself that you're improving with every practice session. Celebrate your small wins, even if it's just completing a conversation without getting stuck. Each time you speak, you're getting better. Here's a great quote from Walt Disney. "The difference between winning and losing is most often not quitting. When you keep going, even when it feels tough, you'll break through those blocks. It's the persistence that pays off in the end." Practice in real-life situations. Finally, the best way to break through speaking blocks is to practice speaking in real-life situations. The more you practice speaking in real-world contexts, the easier it will be to push past those moments of hesitation. If you're afraid to speak English in public, start small. Practice with friends, family, or online language partners. Gradually, you'll feel more comfortable speaking in situations where you might have felt nervous before. Remember, no one becomes fluent by staying in their comfort zone. The more you put yourself out there and use English in real-life situations, the more you'll improve and the less you'll be afraid of making mistakes. In this chapter, we've explored several techniques for overcoming speaking blocks, from changing your mindset about mistakes to using self-talk, shadowing, and role-playing. The key to breaking through these barriers is persistence and practice. Keep speaking, keep making mistakes, and most importantly, Keep going. Every time you push through a block, you're one step closer to becoming a confident, fluent speaker. In T, the next chapter, we'll talk about how to find speaking partners to help you further improve your skills. But for now, I want you to keep practicing, embrace the challenges, and know that every step forward is progress. Chapter 7, Role-Playing Real-Life Scenarios. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter, we're going to talk about a fun and incredibly effective way to improve your speaking skills: role-playing real-life scenarios. Now, you might be thinking, why role-play? Doesn't that sound a bit silly? But let me tell you, role-playing is one of the most powerful techniques for building fluency, and it's a technique that is used by many advanced learners and even professional actors to practice and improve their language skills. The reason role-playing is so effective is because it allows you to practice real-world conversations in a safe and low-pressure environment. Instead of worrying about making mistakes in an actual conversation with someone, you can practice in a fun, creative way. Plus, role-playing helps you get comfortable using language in practical situations that you're likely to encounter in daily life. Why role-playing works. Role-playing works for a few key reasons. It simulates real-world situations. In the real world, we often find ourselves in situations where we need to speak English, but we don't always know what to say. Whether you're ordering food at a restaurant or asking for directions, role-playing allows you to practice these everyday situations before you find yourself in them for real. The more you practice these scenarios, the easier they become. It builds confidence. When you practice a situation repeatedly, you start to feel more confident and prepared for when it happens in real life. For example, if you role-play ordering food at a restaurant multiple times, you won't feel nervous when you're actually sitting at a restaurant with a waiter. It improves fluency. By acting out different scenarios, you get used to speaking naturally and fluently. Instead of pausing or hesitating because you don't know what to say next, you'll have practiced the conversation enough times that it comes easily. This helps you speak more quickly and with greater confidence. How to get started with role-playing. So, how do you start using role-playing in your language practice? It's simple. You can begin by choosing a real-life scenario and acting it out. You can practice these scenarios with a partner, a teacher, or even by yourself. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll get with speaking in different situations. Here are some steps to follow. Step 1. Choose a scenario. Pick a situation that you would likely face in real life, something you want to practice. Here are some examples of common scenarios where you might use English. Ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions on the street, making a reservation at a hotel, having a job interview, talking to a customer service representative, making small talk at a social event. These are all situations where you'll need to speak English. The idea is to practice using the language in these everyday contexts so that when you face them in real life, you feel more confident. Step 2. Create a dialogue. Once you've chosen a scenario, create a short dialogue that you might have in that situation. For example, let's say you're practicing ordering food at a restaurant. Your dialogue might look something like this. Customer: Hi, can I see the menu, please? Waiter: Of course. Here you go. What would you like to order? Customer: I'll have the grilled chicken with a side of vegetables, please. Waiter: Great choice. Anything to drink? Customer: Just water, please. This simple dialogue gives you a starting point to practice. It helps you get comfortable with the phrases and vocabulary you need for that situation. Step 3. Act it out. Once you have your dialogue, it's time to start practicing. If you have a partner, one of you can play the role of the customer and the other can play the role of the waiter. If you're practicing by yourself, you can act out both roles, speaking both the customer's and waiter's lines. The goal is to get comfortable with the flow of conversation and to practice speaking in a natural way. Step 4. Repeat and modify the dialogue. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Once you've acted out the dialogue a few times, try modifying it. Change the situation slightly or make the dialogue more complex. For example, instead of ordering grilled chicken, you could order something different or ask the waiter for a recommendation. This helps you expand your vocabulary and get used to thinking on your feet. For example, customer: Do you have any vegetarian options? Waiter: Yes, we have a great vegetable lasagna and a quinoa salad. Customer: I'll try the lasagna. Please, does it come with any side dishes? Waiter: Yes, it comes with a side of garlic bread. The more you modify and repeat the dialogue, the more fluent you'll become. You'll get comfortable using different phrases and expressions, and you'll become more adaptable in real-life conversations. 3. Practice different scenarios. Once you've practiced one scenario, don't stop there. There are so many different situations you can role-play, and each one helps you prepare for real-world conversations. Here are some ideas to get you started. At a restaurant, practice ordering food, asking for the check, or asking the waiter about the menu. At the airport, role-play checking in at the counter, going through security, or asking for directions to your gate. Making a reservation. Practice calling a hotel or restaurant to make a reservation. Talking about your hobbies. Have a conversation with a friend about your favorite hobbies or activities. At the doctor's office, practice explaining your symptoms and asking questions about treatment. At the store, role-play asking a store employee for help finding something or returning an item. By practicing a variety of scenarios, you'll be ready for just about anything that comes up in your day-to-day life. The more diverse the scenarios you practice, the more prepared you'll be for real conversations in English. Why role-playing is so effective. Now that you know how to get started with role-playing, let's look at why it's so effective for improving your speaking skills. It builds confidence. Role-playing helps you practice speaking in a safe, no-pressure environment. You're not worried about making mistakes because it's just practice. The more you practice role-playing, the more confident you'll feel in real-life situations. It helps you think on your feet. When you role-play, you're often asked to respond quickly and without much thought. This helps you practice thinking in English and speaking spontaneously. In real-life situations, this skill is incredibly useful because you won't always have time to plan out what you want to say. Role-playing helps you get used to thinking and responding quickly. It teaches you to use English naturally. By acting out conversations, you start to sound more like a natural speaker. You'll use more idiomatic expressions, ask questions the way native speakers do, and learn how to structure your sentences more naturally. Instead of memorizing phrases, you'll be learning how to use them in context. Practice with a partner or alone. While it's great to practice role-playing with a partner, don't be afraid to do it alone too. You can practice in front of the mirror, or you can record yourself speaking and listen back to see how you sound. If you're practicing alone, try to role-play both sides of the conversation. You can pretend to be both the speaker and the listener, which will help you improve your fluency and build confidence. Use technology for practice. If you don't have a partner to role-play with, don't worry. You can use language exchange, apps or online platforms to find people to practice with. Many language learners around the world are looking for speaking partners, and these apps give you the opportunity to practice real-world conversations with native speakers. Another great tool is voice recognition software, which can help you check your pronunciation and fluency. Apps like Google Translate or speech-to-text software allow you to practice your speaking and immediately see how accurately you're pronouncing words. In this chapter, We've discussed how role-playing real-life scenarios can make a huge difference in your language learning. By practicing situations like ordering food, asking for directions, or making small talk, you can improve your fluency, build confidence, and prepare yourself for real-life conversations. The key is to practice regularly, modify your dialogues, and have fun with the process. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to make your practice even more engaging and enjoyable by incorporating different techniques. But for now, grab a partner or practice on your own and start role-playing. The more you do it, the more natural and confident you'll become. Chapter 8: The Importance of Staying Positive. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter, we're going to discuss something that can make all the difference in your language learning journey: staying positive. When it comes to learning a new language, it's easy to get discouraged. You might feel like you're not making enough progress, or you might hit a plateau where improvement seems to stop. But let me tell you this: maintaining a positive mindset is absolutely essential for your success. Learning. English or any language is not a race. It's a marathon. It takes time, effort, and patience. Along the way, there will be ups and downs. Sometimes it may feel like you're not improving, but that's when you need to stay positive and keep pushing forward. In this chapter, we'll explore why positivity is so important in language learning, how it can impact your progress, and practical ways you can stay positive even when things seem tough. The power of positive thinking. Let's start by talking about the power of positive thinking. Positive thinking isn't just about being optimistic for the sake of it. It's about believing in your ability to improve and focusing on your strengths rather than your weaknesses. This mindset shift is incredibly powerful because it influences your actions, your motivation, and how you approach challenges. When you think positively, you become more motivated to keep learning. You see setbacks as opportunities to grow instead of obstacles that stop you. For example, if you make a mistake while speaking, a positive mindset allows you to see that mistake as part of the learning process. Instead of thinking, "I'm terrible at this," you think, "I made a mistake, but now I know how to do it better next time." This mindset doesn't just help with language learning, it helps in all areas of life. On the other hand, when you have a negative mindset, you're more likely to feel defeated. You might start doubting your ability to learn English, and this can make you want to give up. But when you stay positive, you keep your eyes on the prize, fluency, and remember that every step forward counts, even if it's small. Positivity increases motivation. One of the biggest challenges when learning a language is staying motivated. Language learning is a long-term commitment, and staying motivated can sometimes be difficult, especially when progress seems slow. This is where a positive attitude can make a huge difference. When you focus on the small wins, like completing a conversation in English, learning a new word, or improving your pronunciation, you celebrate your progress. This keeps you motivated to keep going. It's easy to forget that every little step is progress, but a positive mindset helps you recognize and appreciate those small victories. For example, let's say you've been practicing speaking for a few weeks and can now hold a basic conversation. That's a huge achievement. Even if you still make mistakes, that doesn't take away from how far you've come. When you focus on those positive moments, you feel encouraged to keep practicing and improving. A positive mindset also helps you push through difficult moments. There will be times when you feel frustrated or stuck, but with positivity, you can remind yourself that it's normal to struggle, and that struggle is part of the journey. When you stay positive, you don't let setbacks derail your progress. Instead, you keep going, knowing that the next breakthrough is just around the corner. How positivity helps with mistakes. Let's talk about mistakes, because they're an essential part of learning. If you're afraid of making mistakes, it can be incredibly hard to move forward. The truth is, mistakes are not only inevitable, they're necessary. Mistakes help you identify areas where you can improve, and they provide valuable feedback. However, the key is to not be afraid of mistakes. This is where staying positive really matters. When you make a mistake, a negative mindset might make you feel embarrassed, frustrated, or discouraged. You might even avoid speaking English altogether because you're afraid of making more mistakes. But a positive mindset allows you to view mistakes as learning opportunities. Instead of saying, "I'm terrible at English," say, "I made a mistake, but I'm one step closer to getting it right next time." This small shift in thinking helps you stay motivated, and it makes the process of learning English much less stressful. Remember, mistakes are proof that you're trying. They're evidence of your effort, and every mistake you make brings you closer to fluency. 4. Celebrating small wins. Another important part of staying positive is celebrating your small wins. It's easy to get caught up in the big goal, fluency, and feel like you're not making enough progress. But if you only focus on the end goal, you might overlook all the small victories you've achieved along the way. This can lead to frustration and discouragement. So instead of just focusing on the big picture, take time to celebrate the small wins. Did you have a short conversation in English without feeling nervous? Celebrate that. Did you learn 5 new words today? Celebrate that. Did you get through a difficult grammar point? Celebrate that. These small wins are the building blocks of fluency, and they should be acknowledged and celebrated. By focusing on the progress you're making, no matter how small, you stay positive and motivated to keep going. It also helps you maintain a sense of achievement, which is essential for maintaining a positive mindset. Visualization. See your success. Visualization is a powerful tool that can help you stay positive and focused. It's a technique that successful athletes, performers, and even business people use to achieve their goals. Visualization is all about imagining yourself succeeding, seeing yourself speaking English fluently, and picturing the success you want to achieve. To use visualization in your language learning journey, find a quiet place, close your eyes, and picture yourself speaking English confidently in different scenarios. Imagine having a conversation with a native speaker or giving a presentation in English without any hesitation. Picture yourself understanding movies or podcasts in English without needing subtitles. Visualization helps you stay motivated because it creates a clear mental image of your success. When you see yourself achieving your goals, you're more likely to stay positive and focused on making those goals a reality. Surround yourself with positive influences. The people you surround yourself with can have a big impact on your mindset. If you're surrounded by negative people who don't believe in your ability to learn English, it can be difficult to stay positive. That's why it's important to surround yourself with people who support you and encourage you. Find language, learning communities, whether online or in person, where you can connect with others who are also on the same journey. Share your successes, ask for help when you're stuck, and support each other along the way. When you're surrounded by positivity and encouragement, it's much easier to stay positive yourself. Stay consistent with practice. Consistency is key when learning any language. If you practice regularly, even if it's just for a few minutes a day, you'll see progress. The key is to be consistent and patient with yourself. Sometimes you might not feel like you're improving, but the truth is that progress is happening every day. When you stay consistent with your practice, you build momentum. That momentum will keep you moving forward, and before you know it, you'll start to see results. Stay positive during this process. Trust that the work you're putting in now will pay off in the long run. Practicing gratitude. Finally, one of the most effective ways to stay positive is by practicing gratitude. When you take a moment each day to appreciate how far you've come and be grateful for the learning opportunities, it shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have. Gratitude helps you stay grounded and reminds you that language learning is a privilege. Try this. Every day, take a few minutes to write down 3 things you're grateful for in your language learning journey. It could be that you had a great conversation in English, or that you understood something new. By focusing on the positive aspects of your journey, you train your mind to stay optimistic and appreciate the progress you're making. In this chapter, we've explored the importance of staying positive while learning English. A positive mindset helps you stay motivated, embrace mistakes as learning opportunities, celebrate small wins, and keep going when things get tough. Remember, language learning is a journey, not a race, and staying positive will help you enjoy the process and reach your goals faster. In the next chapter, we'll talk about breaking through speaking blocks and how to overcome those moments when it feels like you're stuck. But for now, take a deep breath, stay positive, and keep practicing. You're doing great. Chapter 9. Real-World Practice. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter we're going to explore one of the most important aspects of language learning, real-world practice. If you've been following along with the previous chapters, you've learned a lot of great techniques like role-playing, repetition, and staying positive. But all of those things are just practice for the real deal. Speaking English in real-life situations. Learning English in a classroom or during a study session is one thing, but applying what you've learned in real-world conversations is a completely different challenge. It's in these real-world situations where you'll face the true test of your skills. But don't worry. The good news is that the more you practice in real-life scenarios, the more confident and fluent you'll become. So let's dive into why real-world practice is so important and how you can make it a regular part of your language learning journey. Why real-world practice matters. You can study grammar, vocabulary, and sentence structures all day long, but until you apply those things in a conversation, they'll remain theoretical. Real-world practice is where everything comes together. It's where you get to see how much you've learned and where you get to improve in a natural, dynamic setting. There's a big difference between learning in a textbook and having an actual conversation with someone in English. Here's why real-world practice is crucial. It improves fluency. Real conversations force you to think quickly and respond naturally. You don't have the luxury of planning out your responses like you might when you're studying. You have to think on your feet, which helps build fluency and reduces hesitation when speaking. It exposes you to natural language. When you speak with real people, you'll be exposed to colloquial phrases, slang, and expressions that you won't find in textbooks. This kind of language is what native speakers use every day, and getting comfortable with it is key to sounding natural and fluent. It boosts confidence. Each real conversation you have, no matter how small, boosts your confidence. You start to see that you can actually communicate in English, and that feeling of accomplishment motivates you to keep going. Overcoming the fear of speaking in public. One of the biggest challenges people face when it comes to real-world practice is fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of not being understood, or even fear of speaking with native speakers. This fear can make you avoid real conversations altogether. But here's the thing, you have to embrace the fear. First, remember that everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. Mistakes are not something to be ashamed of. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the more you'll learn and the faster you'll improve. So, when you feel nervous or afraid, remind yourself that mistakes are part of the process. Everyone has been where you are, and no one will judge you for making a mistake. They will appreciate your effort to speak and communicate. Second, it's helpful to shift your focus away from yourself and onto the conversation. Instead of worrying about how you sound or whether you're making mistakes, focus on understanding the other person and getting your message across. This makes the whole experience much less stressful and much more productive. Finding opportunities for real-world practice. Now that we understand why real-world practice is so important, let's talk about how you can find opportunities to practice. It might seem intimidating at first, but there are actually a lot of ways to get started. The key is to actively seek out situations where you can use English in real life. Here are some practical ways to do that. A. Language exchange partners. One of the easiest ways to practice speaking in real-life situations is by finding a language exchange partner. A language exchange partner is someone who speaks English or is learning it and wants to practice your native language in return. This way, both of you get to practice speaking without the pressure of formal lessons. You can find language exchange partners through apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, or Speaky. These apps connect you with people from all over the world who are learning the same language. The best part is, you're speaking with people who are in the same position as you. They understand that mistakes are part of the process, and they're there to help and practice with you. You can also join language exchange events in your city, if they're available, or look for online language exchange communities on social media platforms. B. Online conversation platforms. If you prefer speaking with someone in a more structured setting, you can use online platforms where you can practice speaking with native speakers or fluent learners. Websites like Italki, Preply, and Verbling allow you to find tutors or conversation partners for one-on-one lessons or free conversations. Many of these platforms offer free trial lessons, so you can try different teachers and see what works best for you. These platforms also offer structured lessons where you can work on specific aspects of your English, such as grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, while practicing speaking. C. Participate in group classes or meetups. Another option is to join group classes or meetups in your area. Many cities have language learning meetups where you can practice English in a social setting. Websites like meetup.com are great for finding local groups that meet regularly to practice speaking. These groups usually have a very supportive atmosphere, and they're perfect for building confidence and meeting other people who are also working on their language skills. If you can't find a group locally, consider joining virtual meetups or online discussion groups. Facebook groups, Reddit communities, and Discord channels dedicated to language learning are great places to find people to practice with. D. Use English in everyday situations. Real-world practice doesn't always have to be formal. You can also start using English in everyday situations. For example, if you're going shopping, try speaking to the store clerk in English. If you're at a restaurant, try ordering in English instead of your native language. You'd be surprised how much this type of practice can help build your confidence and speaking ability. Even if you're just walking down the street, practice describing things you see in English. Or if you're making dinner, try talking about the ingredients and steps in English. The key is to look for small, everyday opportunities to speak and practice. E. Travel to an English-speaking country. If you have the chance, traveling to an English-speaking country is one of the best ways to immerse yourself in the language. Whether it's a short vacation or a longer stay, being surrounded by English all day will force you to use the language in real situations. You'll encounter situations that you can't predict, and that's where the magic happens. When you're forced to communicate in English, you'll improve faster than you can imagine. If travel isn't an option for you right now, you can also find virtual immersion experiences. Many online platforms offer opportunities to speak with native speakers, engage in cultural exchanges, or participate in virtual tours where the language is spoken in real-world contexts. Be patient and persistent. Real-world practice is incredibly rewarding, but it can also be challenging, especially in the beginning. You might feel nervous, or you might find yourself struggling to find the right words. But the key is to keep practicing. Don't give up when it gets difficult. Remember, That language learning is a process, and real-world practice is just one part of that process. There will be moments when you feel like you're not making any progress, but trust me, every conversation, every attempt, and every mistake is bringing you closer to your goal. Be persistent and don't be afraid to fail. Failing means you're trying, and that's the most important thing. Every time you practice in real-life situations, you're becoming a more confident and fluent speaker, and soon you'll start to notice how much your speaking skills have improved. Celebrate your progress. Finally, remember to celebrate your progress. Each time you speak in a real-world situation, take a moment to acknowledge how far you've come. Even if the conversation didn't go perfectly, the fact that you spoke in English is an achievement in itself. Keep a journal or record your experiences so that you can track your improvement over time. Reflect on the challenges you've overcome, the conversations you've had, and the progress you've made. This will help you stay motivated and focused on your goals. In this chapter, we've talked about the importance of real-world practice and how it's essential for building fluency and confidence. The key is to find opportunities to speak in real-life situations, whether it's through language exchange partners, online platforms, group classes, or simply speaking English in your daily life. Don't let fear or hesitation stop you. Every conversation is a step toward becoming fluent. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to overcome speaking blocks that can sometimes happen during real-world practice. But for now, get out there and start practicing. The more you use English in real situations, the easier and more natural it will become. Chapter 10. Finding the right speaking partners. Hi, I'm Selena, and in this chapter, we're going to talk about one of the most effective ways to improve your English skills: finding the right speaking partners. If you've been practicing by yourself or with language apps, you may have noticed that having a speaking partner can make a huge difference in how quickly you improve. But the question is, how do you find the right people to practice with? Speaking partners can help you improve your fluency, pronunciation, and confidence. They give you real-time feedback, help you work through mistakes, and challenge you to speak more naturally. In fact, finding the right speaking partner is one of the most important steps in your language learning journey. So, in this chapter, we'll explore why speaking partners are so crucial, how to find them, and how to make the most out of your speaking practice sessions. Why finding the right speaking partner is crucial. First, let's talk about why speaking partners are so important in your language learning journey. Many learners make the mistake of thinking that studying grammar vocabulary, or listening to English content will automatically lead to fluency. But the truth is, to speak fluently, you need active practice with other people. You need to apply what you've learned in real conversations. Here's why speaking partners are essential. Real-time feedback. Speaking with a partner gives you immediate feedback. If you make a mistake, they can help you correct it on the spot. This helps you improve faster because you're learning from your mistakes right away. Confidence building. Speaking with someone else boosts your confidence. It's one thing to practice by yourself, but when you speak with another person, you build the confidence to handle real-world conversations. Natural language use. In conversations, you'll encounter phrases, slang, and expressions that you wouldn't typically find in textbooks. A good speaking partner helps you learn the natural flow of the language, making your speech sound more like a native speaker. A chance to practice listening. A speaking partner also gives you a chance to practice listening. You need to actively listen to what they say, which helps you improve both your listening skills and your ability to understand spoken English. Types of speaking partners you can find. When you're looking for speaking partners, it's important to consider the types of people who can help you the most. There are several different types of speaking partners, and each one offers unique benefits. Here's a breakdown of the different types. A. Native speakers. Native speakers are the gold standard when it comes to finding a speaking partner. Speaking with someone whose first language is English gives you the opportunity to hear and practice authentic native speech. Here's why native speakers are beneficial. Authentic accents and pronunciations. You'll hear the natural way words are pronounced and intonated, which helps with your own pronunciation. It's also great for understanding accents and regional variations in English. Colloquial language. Native speakers often use phrases, slang, and idioms that you wouldn't necessarily find in textbooks. Practicing with them gives you access to more natural expressions, helping you sound more fluent and authentic in your speaking. Cultural insights. Native speakers can also help you understand the culture behind the language. They can teach you social norms, customs, and etiquette that are important when communicating in English, which can make your conversations sound more natural. However, finding native speakers can sometimes be difficult, especially if you don't live in an English-speaking country. But don't worry. There are many ways to find them online. B. Advanced learners. If you can't find a native speaker, don't worry. Practicing with other advanced learners is still incredibly valuable. Here's why practicing with other learners is helpful. Shared learning experience. Advanced learners understand the challenges you're facing because they're on the same journey. They can offer advice, tips, and encouragement that native speakers might not be able to provide. Mutual feedback. When you practice with another learner, you can both give each other feedback. If you make a mistake, they'll be able to help, correct you, and vice versa. This collaborative process helps you both improve. Comfortable practice. Speaking with another learner can sometimes feel less intimidating than speaking with a native speaker. You're both still learning, and that can create a supportive and relaxed environment. C. Language exchange partners. A language exchange partner is someone who speaks the language you're learning and wants to practice your native language in return. This is a great option for people who want to practice speaking in a more structured way. Why language exchange partners are great. Reciprocal learning. You both benefit from the exchange, so the conversation is balanced. You help them with your native language, and they help you with English. Flexible practice. Language exchanges often take place in informal settings, so you have more flexibility in how you practice. You can use audio calls, video chats, or meet in person if possible. You can also practice grammar and pronunciation together, which helps reinforce what you're learning. Building friendships. Language exchange partners often become friends as well. It's a great way to connect with people from different cultures and build a global network of friends who share similar language learning goals. You can find language exchange partners on apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, Speaky, or even websites like Conversation Exchange. Many platforms allow you to search for people who are learning the same language as you are, so you can connect easily. D. Tutors or professional conversation partners. If you prefer a more structured approach, you might want to consider hiring a tutor or a professional conversation partner. These are people who have experience teaching English and are trained to help learners improve their speaking skills. Why tutors are beneficial. Structured lessons. Tutors can provide a more formal structure to your lessons, helping you work on specific areas like pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary. Personalized feedback. A tutor will give you detailed, personalized feedback on your speaking skills, helping you pinpoint areas for improvement and develop a plan to progress. Accountability. Having a tutor creates a sense of accountability, which can help you stay motivated and committed to your learning goals. Websites like Italki, Preply, or Verbling allow you to connect with qualified tutors for conversation practice. You can choose the tutor who fits your learning style and schedule. How to find the right speaking partners. Now that we know the types of speaking partners available, let's talk about how to find the right ones. Here are some tips to help you make the most of your search. A. Choose partners who align with your goals. Before reaching out to someone, consider what you want to achieve. Do you want to practice your pronunciation, improve your vocabulary, or have casual conversations? Once you know what your goals are, look for speaking partners who align with them. For example, if you want to focus on fluency, look for partners who can have casual, free-flowing conversations. If you want to work on pronunciation, try finding a tutor or language exchange partner who can focus on that specific area. If you want to learn more about culture, try finding native speakers who can share cultural insights while you practice speaking. B. Be clear about expectations. When you first reach out to a speaking partner, be clear about your goals and expectations. Explain that you're learning English and want to improve your speaking skills. Let them know what kind of practice you're looking for, whether it's casual conversation or more structured lessons. Being transparent about your goals will help your partner understand how they can help you and ensure that you're both on the same page. C. Set regular practice sessions. Consistency is key when it comes to improving your speaking skills. Try to set up regular practice sessions with your speaking partners. Whether it's once a week or a few times a week, regular practice will help you build fluency over time. Try to stick to a schedule and be committed to showing up for your practice sessions. The more you practice, the more confident and fluent you'll become. D. Be open to different partners. Don't be afraid to try different partners until you find someone who matches your learning style. Not every conversation will be perfect, and that's okay. The key is to find someone who makes you feel comfortable, encourages you to speak, and helps you improve. In this chapter, we've explored how finding the right speaking partners is crucial for your language learning journey. We've discussed the different types of speaking partners, such as native speakers, advanced learners, language exchange partners, and tutors, and how each can help you improve your speaking skills. Remember, the key is to stay consistent, be clear about your goals, and make the most of each conversation. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how to keep improving your speaking skills and continue progressing toward fluency. But for now, start reaching out to potential speaking partners and make conversation a regular part of your language practice. The more you speak, the more you'll improve. Great work today. Every moment you spend practicing brings you closer to mastering your English listening and speaking skills. Remember, progress comes with patience and consistency. If this story inspired you or helped you in your learning journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Easy English Spark channel for more lessons and stories. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep believing in your growth. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and keep shining.